Hello students, I, Ms. Pooja Kalange, Assistant Professor IICMR MCA, welcome you to this video lecture for the subject Big Data Analytics. So let's begin. The agenda for today is we are going to study what is the basic scale-out architecture, then what is RDBMS and non-RDBMS. Okay, so the difference between the RDBMS and the non-relational RDBMS, that is the NoSQL, we have already covered in our refresher course. Then we will be studying database workload and its characteristics. Then we will be looking at implication of big data scale on data processing. Now let's first see what do you mean by a scale-up architecture and a scale-out architecture. Now as the name suggests here, it is said to be scale-up. So it is said that it is a larger server which is having the ability of expanding vertically. You can see in this picture, just to give you a brief idea, it looks like this is a scale-up architecture where you can add multiple servers here at in the vertical direction. This is a you can say this implements on the concept of dual controller. A dual controller means which have the control on the other servers as well. Whereas if you see the scale out architecture, it distributes the data and workload across all the servers in the horizontal pattern. So this can be said as an example of horizontal partitioning, whereas this is an example of vertical scaling. So let's see in detail what is this scale up and scale out architecture. Okay, so scale-up architecture, as I said already, it is an architecture that uses a fixed controller, which is also said to be a dual controller. And this dual controller is used to do all the processing work. Okay, so this scale-up dual controller, why is it required? Because it is cost-effective and it is also a feasible option when you want to do some vertical expansions. But what are the drawbacks if you see in this case is that this leads to some performance problem because whenever you scale the data and where there are larger resources, when you have ever growing data, it becomes very difficult to cope up with the resources which are being allocated to that. So that is one thing. If you consider this, the cost of one scale up system 10 times is 10 times a 1 terabyte system, which is nearly 100 times. Okay, so this is the scale up, means what you're doing, one scale up system is the cost of one scale up system is 10 times 1 terabyte system, which is nearly 100 times. So you can imagine that how much your cost is also been increasing in that case. Also, one more thing is, since this is an example of vertical partitioning, you need to add new shelves in order to increase the capacity of your disk drives to the maximum level. So this becomes one drawback of the scale-up architecture. So there was one idea which came to use as the scale-out architecture. So let's see what is the scale-out architecture. Okay, so scale-up architecture, as I told you, let's see, the first architecture, that was the scaling architecture, it was depending on the dual controller, but that is the single controller who will be controlling the entire network. But in this case, it will not be a single controller. It will be divided horizontally and there will be the control given to each another. So in the scale-out architecture, we have got number of nodes with each having a controller and a storage capacity of its own. So you can say that they are the independent processors who have their independent processing capability. So what it happens due to this, it is enable it to scale up the process as the need arises. Okay, so that was the basic about the scale up and scale out architecture. So I hope you are clear with this topic of scale out and scaling architecture. This is one of the important questions which is being asked in the university examination. They ask you the difference between the scale out and scaling architecture. You have to explain this with a neat label diagram. So thank you for watching the video. Thank you.